So today we are going to discuss our favourite anti-heroes.
Favourite anti-heroes?
But we do have a filter, we do have a few rules. One of those rules is that they can only be from TV. And did we say only in the last 5 years?
5 years or so. So it's not like I can say, oh, my favourite, anti-hero from film and TV is Han Solo. It's like, well, we all know that. We want to talk about.
We've attempted to go a little bit off the beaten track, I suppose. We're only having one Marvel character each.
One Marvel character each.
Because otherwise it would just be a free-for-all.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, should we start with a definition of an anti-hero for those who might not necessarily be too clued up?
You put me on the spot here to come up with a accurate.
Luckily, I have Google at the ready. Other search engines are available. But an anti-hero is a central character in a story, film or drama who lacks conventional heroic attributes. So, with that being said, who is your first anti-hero?
Well, we're going to kick it off with the only Marvel character that springs to mind straight away for me. And I'm going to say Daredevil. The show that was so wrongfully cancelled, it's a masterpiece. Because his methods, he goes, especially in the recent season, spoilers. But when he goes through this moral dilemma of should he kill the Kingpin, because if he kills the Kingpin, he won't be able to commit any more atrocities. But he's got this complex where he won't and he can't.
It's a really interesting battle in some
It really is. Oh my god, yeah, it really is. I mean, throughout the 3 seasons, almost you agree with the actions almost, but sometimes the methodology, or I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Like, I mean, you've seen the show. What do you think of Matt Murdock? Because I mean, he's got that lawyer by day, vigilante by night.
I think it's just the conflict of interest between both of his lives. Eventually, where he's choosing his friend. Well, at the end of the day, he doesn't choose his friends. He's put in the whole thing with Kingpin ahead of everything else, and I think that's like the selfish quality, and which really makes him a sort of anti-hero as such.
Marvel characters, I believe your first.
Yeah, ties into Daredevil.
So who's your first anti-hero?
I'm going to go television? With the Punisher.
The Punisher.
Frank Castle.
Yep.
Who, in that second season of Daredevil, without a doubt, he is a villain.
Yeah.
But then we see him. See this.
There is a bit of a change, isn't there?
You see a change in that, and then that obviously leads into his own spin-off show, which I think is also fantastic.
Yeah, I've only seen the first season at this point. I've not had time, but I will be watching the second season very soon. You've nearly finished it, haven't you?
The second season is where we really see the anti-hero in it.
Really? Without spoiling it, how so?
Because in first season you have this whole plot with Billy Russo, and by the end of it, they were best friends going into the start of it, and then they become brutal enemies, and you see this play out.
Yeah.
In the second season, where Frank, the Punisher, almost becomes the hero, but in a sense, he's still doing things for the complete wrong reasons.
But his methodology is so violent; it's like gratuitous violence. And I do remember from seeing from the season 2 trailer that there's a scene, I think, where he defends a girl in the bar, and she says something like, "You almost enjoyed that, didn't you?" And it's like he
begins to show a lot more remorse in the second season, which is quite nice. And the way his character develops. Into this, from a complete villain to an anti-hero, and you almost feel sorry for him because of what's happened. I'm not going to throw too many spoilers out there if you haven't seen it, but it's just his methods are ridiculous. Just the brutality of it all, which is that you don't agree with whatsoever. But the reason he's doing it,
exactly, because of what happened to his family and how he's been betrayed by kind of like his own people. When he was turned from a soldier into basically a hitman. You do feel for him. You do.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Moving on.
Very different. I'm going to go from a violent Marvel show on Netflix to a more, what you might call a mum show on the BBC. But I think it's a highly underrated show. and I think it has something for everyone, and that is Poldark. I'm going to be talking about Ross Poldark, played by Aidan Turner.
I've never actually seen Poldark.
It's
so
really good. If you like, you know, if you enjoy a good kind of period drama, it's got your romance in it, it's got your violence in it, it's got a, you know, it's got a lot of tension. I think going off track a little bit, but like the soundtrack is brilliant on it, and the cinematography is gorgeous. It's filmed down in Cornwall, set in Cornwall, and it's also filmed down there, and it's stunning. But this character, you visit him, and he's a soldier that's come home from war, finds out that his childhood kind of love, I say childhood, is probably like a very young man when he left for war. And they promised that they'd be there for each other. She's now married. She's now married to another man. It's all about, there's a lot of class issues in this show. It really highlights that, and it's throughout the seasons. They've just finished filming recently the 5th season that's going to air this year. I'm only halfway through the 3rd season at this point, so I can't even speak for the whole show.
I didn't realise that were that many seasons.
Yeah, he is seen as kind of like this village hero because he is of the upper class, but he almost speaks for the lower class a lot. You know, he'll stand up for them. Like he gives them land. He opens up jobs when he can for them, and makes it sound like a proper hero. He is the protagonist, but then he will do stuff, and you're like, oh, like, do you have to say that? Yeah. He'll treat his wife a certain way. You know, spoilers again. But he has a wife at this point, but when fronted with almost the opportunity to go and sleep with his childhood love, what happens? Yeah, and you're like, oh, come on, must we? And yeah. He can be really stubborn and almost constantly rude to people, a lot of people that care about him. But I would really recommend it. I think, you know, some would call him a straight up hero, but I think he does a lot of things that you wouldn't associate with being
that sounds fair.
That clear cut hero. Yeah. Right, who have you got next? Who have we got?
I'm going to go for a character from probably one of the most successful shows over the last 10 years. It's taken a bit of a hit recently. I'm going to go for Daryl Dixon.
Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead.
I think he's
have opinions about The Walking Dead.
Yeah, we'll explore that in another video completely. But I just think he's such an interesting character, and The Walking Dead has so much character progression and so many different stories, but I think his is one of the most interesting.
I think I probably left The Walking Dead in terms of watching it probably around season 5, midway through season. What are we now? What is it now?
We're in season 9 now.
9.
Yeah, it's just come back after its mid-season hiatus. And for a ton of different reasons, he's now kind of the main protagonist in it.
Oh, is he?
You'd say so. Out him and Michonne.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because something. I mean, because a certain character.
A certain character kicks the bucket, shall we say?
Who you would associate with being the protagonist. Yeah. I did hear about that.
But yeah, no, like going from season 1 to being like this biker, and
that dynamic with Merle in the earlier seasons as well.
Yeah,
you know, you would kind of consider him more villain than you would even anti-hero, especially Merle, who did have a good character turnaround in the end. There was that dynamic. I think a lot of the change happened, if I recall correctly, could be wrong here, but with Beth, when him and that friendship blossomed.
And he's had in the later seasons as well, he's had a really interesting relationship with Carol as well. They're kind of like really kind of like siblings. That's the kind of relationship you associate between the two. They're like really good friends. If something happens, if something happens to one of them, then they worry a lot. And I think that's kind of one of the anti-hero qualities in Daryl a bit, that he can be really, really selfish.
Can he?
Yeah, and I think in some of these kind of later seasons, he's been wanting to show violence towards people, and he's kind of had opinions that you wouldn't necessarily agree with. He falls out with Rick on multiple occasions, and over like some really stupid things.
But in the end, he'll want the best for the group, won't he?
But everything he's doing is for the best, but his reasons are sometimes not for the best, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, I think he's definitely one of my favourite on TV.
Okay. I think my final anti-hero, which is a questionable one because might be more villain, but I was having to think about what massive show is returning soon, and we probably need to include it, and that is Game of Thrones. And you won't know much about this because you're one of the few. You're like the 1 point whatever percentage.
What, the 0% that haven't seen Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
No, it's always been someone I've wanted to watch. I've got so far behind.
You might as well wait for it to finish, and then...
Yeah, it'll almost be annoying, because I'll probably get into it and I'll be like, oh, I want more, but now it's finished. So.
Yeah, well, they have announced spin-off shows. There will be spin-off shows, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they'll go down. But anyway, moving on. I'm going to say Sandor Clegane, or The Hound.
I'm just staring at you blankly.
Yeah. I'll keep it brief.
Let's go for it.
But no, the earlier seasons you would attribute more villain. He works for who you'd consider the villains of the show, and then there's this. He kind of abandons that post, and this man's probably committed every crime under the sun at this point. Anything you can think of. But in we learn about his upbringing with his brother, who definitely is an out-and-out villain. And how he's treated, and it's not that you forgive him for some of the stuff he says and does, and I mean he's still, even come the later seasons after the character progression, he still absolutely speaks his mind, never one to kind of curb his words. But with he goes on kind of a character journey with Maisie Williams' character, Arya Stark, I'm sure you're aware, and she's very young at the time, and it's almost like he has to kind of look after her, but he's definitely not the kind of caring figure. But it's one of them ones where there probably is more anti than hero, but he has done actions. He has saved Sansa Stark from getting raped in one of the earlier seasons, and it's it's one of them ones where you think, well, is he or isn't he? But I think he qualifies, and I think he's a brilliant character. I think he's a really complex character, and I'm always engaged. Like Game of Thrones, overall is a brilliant show, but there are some storylines where you're a bit. I want to go back to that one, but I'm always invested in the Hound story.
It's something I need to crack on with at some point. Find some sort of service which isn't completely illegal to watch it on.
Yes.
But yeah. So leading on.
Who is your final?
My third one. I've gone a little bit rogue.
Rogue.
I don't think many people have seen it, but it's another Netflix original.
Okay.
And I've gone for Dr. Chrysler in a show called The Alienist. You're looking at me completely blankly.
I mean,
but yeah, it's a show. It's probably one of the best shows I watched on Netflix last year. I've recommended it to lots of people. As the post comes through the door.
As the post comes through the door. The post has arrived.
It's set kind of, I think sort of late 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, and it's about a psychologist.
Okay.
And he's kind of they have to find out who's killing off basically a ton of like children, and most of these children kind of have like mental problems as well.
Okay.
And so he becomes involved with the police force, and Theodore Roosevelt, who was sort of around that time, but so immediately you think he's good because he's trying to help solve the mystery, but he's fighting with a lot of his demons, and a lot of his motives are completely selfish. He comes from a really well-off like German family, and it's set in America. But yeah, a lot of his motives are really selfish. He's kind of doing it to enhance his reputation. Okay. And
so good actions, but the motives aren't exactly.
And he ends up, I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's a lot of like falling out with his friends, a lot of animosity. Okay. And it's kind of like a cliche thing in the show, but there's like a love backstory as well. Okay. And he kind of like lets that take over, so that begins to become more of his focus rather than the issues at hand.
Yeah, solving the. Okay.
But he's kind of like.
That sounds interesting.
He's got good motives, but a lot of them are for the wrong reasons. So.
Camera cut again.
It needs to stop happening.
We're very good at this. We're very seasoned veterans at I mean, all we've got is one camera, and we can't even try.
Your camera is the anti-hero.
Yeah, my camera is
this video.
that's the winner.
Yeah, questionable. I think we had basically wrapped things up.
We were coming to a natural end. This is going to start becoming a thing, isn't it? It's just going to cut out mid-video.
Yeah, well, you know, what can you do?
Yeah.
We're not made of money.
No, we're not. And on that note, we want to hear who your favourite anti-hero is.
Yeah.
This is just our opinions.
Yeah, we tried to go a little bit different with some of them.
Yeah.
Try to give you some food for thought.
Food for thought.
Some potential TV recommendations going forward.
Yes, yeah. Especially with more maybe the slightly more unknown stuff worldwide, like The Alienist or Poldark. Because I mean, most people have seen Game of Thrones or at least one of the Marvel Netflix series.
Most people seem to have watched The Walking Dead as well.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, of course.
So,
yeah, they're some of the biggest shows that have ever been. But thanks for watching, guys.
A bit of pleasure.
A pleasure as always. And see you soon.